Troy, you taking minutes tonight?
I can take them.
Dave, you gonna take them?
Yeah, I can take them.
Get that man an S for his chest.
How about it? Thanks, Dave.
Right.
They're halfway done.
Are we good, Jack?
Ready when you are.
Okay, wonderful.
There's one team player right there.
Right there, I know. Get that man a plaque. All right. Let's see. It is 7:02. Call this meeting to order. The Cecil Township Planning Commission meeting for October 19th, 2023. First item on the agenda would be approval of the September meeting minutes. However, I was not present at the September meeting, and we only have two members of the, well, first things first, for everybody present, myself, Troy are here physically, and then we have Dave Coldren, called him via phone. So that everybody's on the same page. Dave and Troy were here last month, but we need at least 3 from the previous month to be able to approve those minutes. So we're going to have to table. So, Troy, you want to make a motion? We should table those minutes?
I'll make a motion to approve the minutes from the September 21st Planning Commission meeting. Table that, please.
I'll second that motion.
Okay, we have a motion to table and a second. All in favor?
Aye.
Aye. Carries. All right, next item on the agenda is review of previous decisions. Jack, do you have anything that you'd like to go over with us there?
I think I sent everything to you via email. I don't know if you had any questions on those, but Dan, do you have anything that?
When I do the zoning discussion, I'll go over here with you with the changes on the zoning.
Yeah, I know we cover that at that point, but.
Other than that, I can't recall what the items were on the agenda.
I actually, just so you know, I sent the Board of Supervisors agenda and highlighted the things that mattered, that pertained. They were just routine, and there were only 2 items, but I think you guys had that in your email. So.
Yeah, I did see it come over.
Okay.
So thank you. There's no old business to cover in this month's meeting, so we're going to move on to new business. We have, number 1, we have application 2023-0032, Han Farms Consolidation Plan. Applicant Michael Dennison.
And they're here.
If you want to come up and tell them.
Talking to this.
Hello, my name is Katrina Harmel. I'm with Scheffler and Company, and we are here on behalf of Michael Dennison and Tiffany, and we're presenting the consolidation of 3 lots. One is at 334 Han, the other one's at 340 Han, and the other one, the last one is it's a wooded lot. That's 7.869 acres. So the idea is to consolidate these so that they can have their horses on the land with them, and also have a residence. Any questions?
Not right away, other than, Dan, do you want to go over your
Yeah,
letter first?
I actually received a response back from Katrina this afternoon. They have addressed all the comments. It was up in the air related to, they were going to try to break out the existing residential house as another lot, but I guess that's off for now, right?
Yeah, it's off for now. I know that they plan in the future to still have one primary lot, one primary home, but in hopes to use the existing structure for a guest home or some other use, not necessarily a primary home.
Okay.
Well, I mean, that's not a part of this application. This application is
Yes.
to keep, just to be clear for the record, we have one house on one lot that's being consolidated to 10 acres.
That is correct.
Okay. Yeah, I'm good with the plan. They've addressed our comments. I'll follow up with a clean letter for the Board of Supervisors, but all my comments have been addressed.
What about item 1? Sorry, I've shut my,
That's what I was pertaining to.
okay, just the, okay, so we're good on that then?
Yeah,
for
I
now?
mean, we understood they were maybe gonna try to still subdivide off the lot to a smaller lot for the house in the front, but they're not doing that.
Oh, but you were pointing out that if they did that, then it would make it, yeah, gotcha, I'm following you now.
It just brings in a whole host of other things that they don't wanna deal with right now.
Yeah, okay. Troy, any questions? I don't. Dave?
No, I'm good.
Do we have a motion?
I'll make a motion to approve the application 2023-0032 Han Farms Consolidation Plan with the recommendation of Gateway.
I'll second that motion.
That's referenced in the Gateway letter from October 16th, 2023.
That's correct.
All right, we have a motion and a second. All in favor?
Aye.
Aye. Motion carries. Thank you.
Thanks for that, Jason.
I got you. All right, next item on the agenda is application 2023-0034, Alto Piano Phase 6, revised lots 684 and 6-B-2. Applicant William Graziani.
This is just one of the additional lots, subdivisions that's been created along the roads which are already built and in place. And there's a revision to the lot line between 603, 604, and 602, 603 to give 603, 604 some more space. And then they're also subdividing lot 601, is that correct?
Yeah, that's correct.
I'm sorry, your name for the record?
Mike Graziani, speaking on behalf of Graziani Homes and William Graziani.
You have third generation here. Look at
Yeah.
this. So the plan as submitted meets our technical requirements, so I'm good on my end.
Okay, so that's 604, not 684 then, right?
Yeah.
And then, just to make sure for, not sure if this recording, just to clarify on that, lot 602/603, and then 603/604, that's not an issue, right?
In terms of the nomenclature,
Yeah, just making sure we're good.
yeah, I mean, you can call a lot anything you want.
Just making sure we're okay with it.
Call it Jason's lot if you wanted.
I got it. I was making sure we're good.
Yeah.
With the overlap of 603 there.
Yeah, that's fine. It's kind of nice because it shows a chain. If you followed the chain of title from the original subdivision plan, you could see that the lots are combined. It kind of tells you.
Yeah, it was
that.
originally 3 lots, now it's down to 2.
Yeah.
Yeah, I'm with you. Okay, Troy, any questions? Dave,
Nope.
do we have a motion? We have the Gateway letter dated October 16th.
I'll make a motion on application number 2023-0034, Alto Piano Phase 6 revised LT 684 and 6-B-2 with the Gateway recommendation with the letter dated October 16th, 2023.
I'll second that motion.
Okay, we have a motion to approve in a second. All in favor?
Aye.
Aye. Motion carries. Thank you.
Thank you.
Next item on the agenda is, I'm all flipped around, is application 2023-0035, Shiloh Industries Land Development.
Yeah, so nobody's here today. I spoke to Bob Janessi regarding this plan. We had issued a letter with some comments. This is a very, very simple application where they want to actually construct a shed to actually get rid of some surface trailers that they have some things stored in on the property. So they're putting in a 60, there you go, Jack. They're putting up a 60 by 33 foot wide shed on an area that's already paved. So no new impervious area. It's just a simple shed to kind of clean up the property. No utilities to it, no space for any facilities inside bathrooms or anything like that. So it's just a cold storage type of a building to put things in. And they rushed this in and we got them on the agenda. We had some comments. They got us over a plan today. We were able to look at it really quickly, and they were all superficial comments just to get it in line with what we require other people to put on the plan. So I'm good with, if you want to consider it technically, just based upon our letter of October 16th.
I think we have an updated letter of the 19th showing everything's good, right? So,
Yep.
The height of that building was good?
Yeah, it's, whatever the height is, I think the maximum height is, I don't have the current, I wasn't able to get a copy of the current plan. We had them put the height on it. Oh, yeah, here it is. Building height is really just 9'6". It's only 1 story. So it's well within the height requirements for that district.
Dave, do you have any questions?
So this is an approvable plan. All the items have been addressed, correct?
Yes,
There's no need to reference the gateway letter.
that's correct.
Correct.
Okay. Yeah, no, I'm good.
Okay, do we have a motion?
I will make a motion. We approve application 2023-0035, the Shiloh Industrial Contractors
Land Development.
Plan.
I'll second that.
Okay, we have a motion to approve in a second. All in favor?
Aye.
Aye. Motion carries. Wonderful. All right. Next item is to review the UDO Section 917 Interstate Highway Plan Development Overlay District.
So I can address this if you'd like me to.
I think
Please
that
do.
would be wonderful.
We do have somebody in the audience that would like to make comments afterwards, so.
Absolutely.
Just to be clear, this is not related to any of the ongoing zoning activities. This particular section, 917, already exists in the Unified Development Ordinance. It's the Interstate Highway Plan Development Overlay District. It was developed in 2010, related to the property that's essentially known as Cool Valley. If anybody was around back then, I don't know if you were here then when this ordinance was developed.
I think it was right before I came on board, but
Yeah.
it was discussed ad nauseum when I first
Yeah.
got on the commission.
So the idea of the IHPD overlay district was, it was for large tracks abutting the interstate highway. The, what it included, though, was mixed use, including the residential part of the development. The supervisors have asked the planning commission to consider taking out the residential portion of the ordinance. And the reason for that is that they feel that the land along interstate highways is very important, and they feel that there's plenty of ground associated with other parts of this development that would be more suited for residential, and they would like to just keep this as a commercial development along the interstate highway or these properties in the overlay district. So that's the best I can tell without really hearing it from the whole board, but we were told to put it on the agenda. The solicitor made these revisions. It's in front of you to review. I reviewed it myself this afternoon. It's pretty straightforward, that they removed everything that's in the residential category of land use, and that's it. I did copy the,
Dan,
Yes.
fully admitting that I've not really taken a side-by-side look at what's being proposed here, and some of the other stuff we've recently discussed, but if we're taking the residential, I'm trying to see how this would compare to what we're proposing with the mixed-use commercial.
I wouldn't even compare the two. I honestly, because I think they're totally different. This is along an interstate highway. Our MUC and MUR are designed for more big areas within the township that potentially have access to another highway or present big tracts of land that can be developed along township roads and along state roads. I think they're different.
Okay.
Just for that, I mean.
I'm just looking at where we're looking at, where the IHPD is relative to where where we're looking to put the MUC. They're both sitting, one's against 79, the other one's against 576. And they're both large tracts of land, currently relatively undeveloped land. So it's,
Well,
I'm just,
I don't.
I'm asking the question at, fully knowing that we might be
Well,
diving
the-
deeper into something.
The MUR and the MUC both include a residential component. Currently, as they stand, the MUR is just, you can, as we talked about last month, you can put various types of housing types within the mixed-use residential. The mixed-use commercial allows for single-family, and tonight I'm going to discuss with you an option for places that are closer to the interstate highway or to the highway to put higher density residential in. So that's the compare and contrast. This one here, this particular change came, I think people were just thinking about this this property, and if you recall, when the application that was before us had a residential component of it that was controversial.
Yeah, it was, essentially what was being proposed previously over there was something probably very similar to what we've been discussing with the MUC. I don't know that it fit it, to a T, but I think it was very similar in a lot of ways.
Jack, why can't I zoom on this thing? There you I got it, I'm good. So. Lost it.
One too many Zooms.
There, right? There we go. So, if you look at the other side of Interstate 79, this is Maple Ridge. This is the property that we're talking about. It's got the hashed area. It's BPD with an overlay of the highway, interstate highway on it. So, the proposal would be to remove the residential component of that. Essentially, the area that's hashed is all the land, well, this land's not, this is TOA now. So really, this is out of play, this big green one. But there is R4 here already that could be, residential in the future. The board's position is that, again, that this is a valuable property with direct access very, very close to the interstate. And they feel that this shouldn't have a residential component to it. That doesn't mean that somebody couldn't come in and propose to rezone it in the future for residential or do whatever. It just takes it out of play as in this particular overlay.
But so the hash area is what we're talking about, that's the IHPD, but the IHPD overlays over a currently zoned residential area, but we're looking to take out.
Remember, it's an overlay district, so you can either go for the base zoning. So if I wanted this come in and I can develop it under BPD, and I don't need the IHPD. over
Sure, on the
top of it.
BPD, but I'm looking at the,
And the same for residential. There's an R, I think that's an R.
I thought that was R1. Yeah,
It's R1.
because I don't, R4's mobile home, isn't it?
Yeah, R4's,
Yeah.
yeah, R3's village commercial, I know that.
R4, I believe.
R2 are our two primary.
Right. I think that's R1 back there, that's what I thought that
It's
was.
white. Anything that's pure, anything that's white as a base is R1. Again, I think that the concern is that, given, I mean, again, the board in their view, at least this is, I'm just trying to project at least what I've heard from them. I'm not saying, don't quote me on, but the board has projected that they think that we have limited space to promote commercial development. Commercial development is good for taxpayers, as we know by South Point. And they would like to promote that anywhere that they can. And we've had our onslaught of residential developments, and they're not as keen on residential developments at this point in time. And the focus of their first push on the land use stuff was to create, Duke's thing created more commercial. The Barney and Lewandowski properties were BPD, and then we did Koski with I-1. So they were all non-residential things to kind of promote development, but this is just something else that captured their fancy.
I understand it.
So I think it comes down to whether you agree with that or not.
Troy, you have any thoughts?
I mean, you can
I don't,
table it tonight if you want to talk more about it next month. It's a last minute thing. You can make.
it's definitely last minute, we're definitely shorthanded on
Yeah.
the board tonight, so I especially would like to get some of Barbara's input given, you know, the insight that she always provides living over in that area.
Sure.
Being able to give that feedback.
Dave, you still with us?
I am, yeah, and I'm fine with tabling this for tonight.
When do you guys want to make a motion on that?
Yeah, I'll make a motion to table the revisions to UDO section 917.
I'll second that motion.
All right, we have a motion to table and a second. All in favor? Aye? All right.
Would
Point point of order, guys, I know we tabled the motion already, but we do have residents here who want to comment on it. I don't want to make them have to come back another month to comment on it.
I think
So,
these ladies are here for the next thing I'm going to talk about.
is it
I
the
know
next
these
thing?
li- I know these ladies,
Okay. So you're here to talk about,
and so is this guy. They're here to talk about MUC and.
okay,
MUI.
so none of you have anything to say about this then? Okay, I misunderstood then. That's fine. Thank you.
No worries.
Okay,
Ready to move on?
the floor is all yours, Dan.
Okay, so I provided the planning commission with a little summary of what's been going on in terms of the zoning. And Jack, I'm gonna buy you a new computer for Christmas. I really am. I think that's gonna be a donation to the township. Sure, I got one in my closet at home. Better than this. Easy.
Trying to roll up. Just roll the mouse.
It's on pain.
Where you headed?
I just want to get out.
Okay.
Sorry. It isn't rolling the other direction.
I think all the way down the bottom right, you can zoom out. All the way to, no, over to the right. There's a bar on the right-hand side that I can see. I don't know if you can.
Yeah, that's not zooming now. Hang on 1 second.
Start her again.
Yep. There we go. That's better. All right. So last month at the Board of Supervisors meeting, they acted on some of the zoning map changes that the Planning Commission had seen and recommended on. There were 3 changes of zoning that were made. The Barney and Lewandowski property were added to the SD district here. The Koski property was rezoned to a portion of it to I-1, and then we put the buffer around it with the R3, as we had talked about. So that's done. And then the third thing that happened was that the Fuchs Farm was rezoned to C1. So that's done. This is the current zoning map right now. It doesn't have the signature on it yet, but Jack and I are working on that. So those changes were made. Then there were all the general ordinance stuff related to the UDO that we went over was changed, and that was approved. So, and then the ADU part of it, I don't think, Jason, you were here for that, but the solicitor's recommendation was to remove the whole accessory dwelling unit portion
Oh,
of the ordinance. Maybe you did know that.
yeah, I think actually we discussed that briefly the month before as well.
So that was removed, and that whole part of the UDO changes were adopted. So that leads us to where we are here tonight. What happened last month was I came to the board with an updated MUC, MUR ordinance. And we also received comments from Burns and Scalo related to some revisions that they would request. Burns and Scalo is under control of some properties over along Rising Road. In this vicinity here, there currently are R1 properties. They were initially discussed as potential rezone areas to MUC and MUR in this area up along Rising Road near the South Fayette Way connection. So they came to us and said that they would like to see some changes made. So I incorporated some of those changes, made some suggestions, and what I'd like to do is just walk you guys through that tonight and get any comments, further comments that the Planning Commission has, and see where we go from there. Of course, take comments if there's comments. So, so the latest revision, and I tracked the changes on this. Nothing has changed in the preamble. In the definitions, one of the uses that was discussed in allowing to be put into the MUC was an apartment hotel. And it seemed like the Planning Commission was okay with that last month, except that they wanted it limited in terms of size. So I incorporated an apartment hotel definition as to what it is. And essentially an apartment hotel is you own it as a condominium, but you're limited to the time that you can live there. It provides hotel services, but you can't live there full time. Essentially, you can only live, you have to rent it out for a part of the year. That's as simple a definition as I can put it. I don't know that they'd be popular in Cecil Township, but it's another use, you know? And again, if you want it in or want it out, that's, you know, again, I'm looking for recommendations. I'm just trying to be the facilitator here. I'm not trying to provide an opinion. The recommendation, again, from the developer was to add assisted living facilities, which I think that could be a component of a bigger, you know, development or a part of, you know, adjacent to a residential development, similar to, we keep referring to Hastings over in South Fayette as an example of that. So we added in a definition for assisted living facility. I added in a definition for major highway because it's used in a statement here further along, just as a state route or interstate highway with limited access and a minimum of 2 lanes in each direction. As, you know, just to kind of define what it is. If the route is actually, I think it's an SR. It's an SR. The new highway is an SR. It's not an interstate highway.
576.
Yes. At least I saw it labeled as it's not interstate yet. It's probably built to interstate standards, but it's not an interstate yet.
Yeah, it makes sense. It takes time for the feds to
Right.
to adopt it, to
Right.
recognize that it's there now.
So put a definition in for that, and then we get into the MUR district. And again, this is the mixed-use residential district. A lot of these requirements are the same. In order to do a mixed-use residential district, and I'm just gonna recap some things here. Sewer and water is required, traffic study is required. The uses by right in MUR are single-family dwellings, essential services, home occupation, very similar to our R1. Conditional uses, community residential homes, there's a definition for that, that's been in there. And then the MUR does allow you to do a mixed-use development. It's permitted, and we sort of talked about this with the planning commission, that it had to be a minimum of 30% single-family, and the maximum of 10% of the total development area would be permitted for either multifamily townhouses or other multifamily houses, and 10% to multifamily in terms of garden apartments. The density still stayed the same at no more than 6 per structure if you were going to do the multifamily or the townhouse development. Accessory uses are allowed. Maximum density, this was where I'm getting to, stays the same. And then it goes into the lot sizes and setbacks.
Dan, you want to go back up a moment?
Sure.
Might you have now created yourself a little bit of a conflict where you have no more than 6, on B there, 5B, no more than 6 two-family townhouses or condominium dwelling units, and now but you have condominiums listed under as
That's a good point. Condominiums shouldn't be in the townhouse part of this.
yeah, because you're going to have more than 6 units in potentially more than 6 units.
Your point is to take out condominiums.
I think so. Yeah.
Yeah. Okay.
I mean, if it's a condo association, but they're using townhouses for the dwellings, the rule still stands. It's good just saying townhouses.
Well, I think the intent.
But you can have a condo association for an apartment building as well. And that kind of, you could run afoul right there with that.
Let me just check that. I'll check that one with the solicitors. Okay. All right, we were down to the setbacks, sidewalks are required. So this is just your basic, this is all residential. In MUR, the only thing you can do is residential in one form or another. So that's the first part of it. Anything else on that? Okay, moving along to commercial mixed use. And this was one of the big, it has the same requirements up front. You're allowed to put single family in. But the suggestion was, and this was bounced back and forth with the supervisors a bit. I think they're okay with this. I'm pretty sure they are, but they were concerned about how it would be written. What it says is single-family, two-family dwelling units, multifamily dwellings, and townhouse dwelling, garden apartment dwellings, or a mixture thereof, as a part of a comprehensive residential planned development, only provided if the PRD includes residential uses other than single-family dwellings, and it must be located within blank feet from an access point to a major highway. So it's sort of setting it up for really just trying to limit it to the properties that are really close to South Fayette Way. If you wanted to to do, again, the board's hope was that they would just see single-family and some commercial uses associated with single-family in the MUC, right? It was supposed to be more of a neighborhood type of a thing, but you know, it could be bigger, it could be the creation of a whole neighborhood like Hastings. So the developer said, listen, we need some multifamily in this, we can't just do it with single family. So the intent of this part of it was to bring the other types of housing units into the MUC, but only if you're within a certain distance of a major highway. To, you know, that could handle the density or would be able to use it. I'll just keep going and then you guys can ask questions if that's okay. Or stop me when you want.
Yeah, I'm still, gears are turning on that one still.
Okay. Again, it had the same requirements, subject to a PRD, which is a conditional use. 50-foot perimeter buffer required, height limitations. And then it begins to talk about, you know, allowed accessory commercial service and other non-residential units such as a barber and beauty shops, convenience stores, gift shops, goes on. You know, to serve the residents of the PRD and the surrounding community because of the primarily residential nature of the PRD, only those commercial uses compatible with reasonably associated residential development should be permitted. No industrial uses shall be permitted. And then, again, limited in terms of density, the same way as the MUR. And then I put this in because I think the board was pretty adamant that they wanted some of that land near the interstate to be commercial driven if possible. And I put in a provision that at least if you're going to do this, like we talked about, you know, we got our percentages for the MUR are 30, 10, and 10. I put in here that a minimum of 20% of the land area of the development parcel shall be developed as a non-residential use. You know, we've been shown some depictions by the developer that they could do multifamily and then reserve a piece of their property for commercial, for office, for something else that they could do in that location. So that's why this didn't come from the developer. This was me just thinking, and again, I'm just throwing it out there to you guys, that there should be some limitation if you are going to go this direction and want to do multifamily, that you have to reserve some portion of it for a non-residential use. Now that could be a lot of different things, but you know, most likely would be compatible with what's going on there already. So, and then, you know, at the developer's suggestion, I thought these were good suggestions. We added some other uses in by right that were not in before. Assisted living facility, nursing, convalescent or rest home, self-storage facility, veterinary animal hospital, again, low use type of a facility. And then uses by right, again, to front on state roads. The apartment hotel I put in there. And then there was some discussion last week related to hospitals. Like what if somebody wanted to plant a satellite hospital in the vicinity, in the area? I said 20 beds. I just checked the AHN up in Wexford, McCandless, 15 beds, but they do other stuff there. You know, there's not a lot of people staying there in beds. Some people do, but it's not, you know, it's not a big hospital.
Yeah, I'm curious, another one that comes, I know that we have Children's South Road over here, but I don't think they have any beds in that facility, but I think there are beds in the Children's Wexford facility, so.
I know there's.
Something similar to that.
AHN Wexford is a hospital.
Right, I know that on the AHN.
It's a mini hospital.
I'm looking at the
It's on like 10
children's.
acres.
Yeah. I'm not opposed to that.
And then, conditional uses, they corrected us. We had daycare centers under uses by right. So I fixed that. I moved the hospital into along state roads because I think that, again, a higher traffic generator.
Would it not stay under conditional use, but when it's greater than 20 beds?
If you think that's, I think you'd like to have that in one.
I mean, otherwise, it's not in there at all, because you have use by right for hospital limited 20 beds, but you can put it as a conditional use for greater than 20 beds.
And then the use regulations, again, they conform to the requirements of the C1 zoning district. Commercial uses or tract parcels over 25 acres, that, we talked about the buffer here. We did remove the limitation on the maximum size of any single tenant in the MUC part of it, because the board, and this was a feeling of the board and everybody, that we shouldn't limit that ability in terms of size. If it makes sense for the development, we shouldn't put a limitation on size. At least that was the thought. So we struck that. That was struck the last time. That's really about it. I mean, I didn't agree with everything that the developer proposed. You know, but I think the key that they were asking for was some ability to do multifamily on the piece, and again, I think that comes with some quid pro quo, having some part of it have commercial.
Yeah, I mean, I think you could have done the same thing just by limiting percentages again, just like we did over with the MUR. Limited percentage of the total development, rather than limit it to a specific area within a distance of that particular road, allow it anywhere within the MUC, but just limit the percentage of it. I mean, I don't necessarily,
That's up to you guys. I mean, I'm not.
I mean, Troy or Dave, what are your thoughts on that? I mean, to me, it was a big deal about how much multifamily we had in the MUR. Because my concern is I didn't want those all to essentially just be apartment complexes. But when we're getting into the MUC and we're already looking at primarily commercial uses for the property,
Well,
with that residential component on them. With more of a, let me rephrase it, more of a focus on commercial use.
but remember, it started out as a comprehensive plan that we had that mixed use category, right?
Right.
The Board of Supervisors said, this is crazy. We can't have all this mixed use on country roads.
I think I said that all the way back to the
So
planning.
what they can't, the compromise was, we have the MUR, which is you can mix it up with residential, but you're not gonna put commercial on Elizabeth Cowden's property. Now, maybe part of the Cowden property that fronts on 980 makes sense, and that was why we have the section for MUC,
MUC, right,
which would be along state roads.
right.
So, again, I
So allowing that little bit of I don't necessarily think I have an issue with multifamily mixing into the MUC, there. I think in a lot of, in my mind, mixed, or multifamily mixed in with commercial sometimes makes more sense than single-family residential mixing in with that, but maybe I'm wrong.
I tend to agree with what you're saying
Dave?
Yeah, so Jason, you're asking about adding in the percentages, the maximum percentages to this?
Well, so, yeah, Dan had in there, you know, the developer saying, hey, we want to put some mixed-use residential in there,
Right.
into this, a multifamily residential into this mixed-use commercial.
Yes.
And so Dan's thought was, well, I can give them that, but I'm not just going to give them carte blanche. So I'll give them what they're asking for, but I'm going to limit it to a very specific area of the overall MUC, keeping it close to the exit ramps to
Okay.
South Fayette Way. My thought, and I understand why he's doing that. My thought on it was, you know, that's, like, I'm okay with that if that's what we all agree on, but I was also floating it out there that, hey, what if we just say no to limiting it to just being in close proximity to the on and off ramps and say it can be anywhere in the MUC, but we're going to limit the percentages down on the total development. And just, you know, so
Yes.
we'll let them put them, they want to have they want to have multifamily housing in there in the MUC, that's fine, but it's going to be a very small percentage of each development.
Yeah, I kind of like that idea better. Allowing them to select the areas, but we limit it to, some percentage.
Well, but remember, guys, the goal, and again, we just went over, and I'm just trying to play supervisor here. The goal of the supervisors is to make sure that we don't give all of our land away for residential development.
And that's why I was saying keeping this, but,
So their idea, you know, so again, if I'm going to do, you know, some dense development that might include towns, apartments, you know, anything beyond single family, and it's in an area that has some potential for commercial development because it's close to the highway. I'm just trying to, all I'm trying to focus in on that is on that limited part of it. If you guys think that for the rest of MUC, that you should allow all types of housing types, is what you're saying, right? And throw in that same percentage that we would put in for the MUR? Is that
no, I think the percentages would have to be different.
okay?
I would say the percentages have to be different. I guess I'm just looking at it and saying, I get it. Burns and Scalo came to you and said, hey, we have some property real close to those on and off ramps, and we'd like to have this. Well, I mean, to me, it sounded like we're, you know, writing an ordinance to benefit, you know, and we're making modifications to the ordinance to benefit, you know, a single or very few property owners.
Well, and the reason you do that is because you don't have infrastructure to support, you know what I mean? It's a limited area where you would want to do it.
No, I hear that, and that's why I said I'm not saying no to it. I'm just saying I think we should discuss this overall. I mean, Burns and Scalo said that they want that, and I understand why they want it. But do we want to limit it to that one little area, or do they make a point that we should consider overall and not just give that to them and to nobody else who would be looking at developing within the MUC? And mind you, I'm saying that as someone who was very wanting to really ratchet down and limit the amount of multifamily in the MUR. So I'm not a big fan on it, on a whole lot of that in there, but I'm also not a fan of, I don't know if I necessarily like the way that we're looking at it right now.
Well, I mean, again, and for the purposes of the audience here tonight, the board has made no decision on what properties would have this new zoning district. They want to develop and be very comfortable with the district first, and then they would strategically apply it to properties that make most sense. That's the intent. So, again,
Agreed, but when you put the caveat about being within two, you know, I think the recommendation, it looked like you were recommending 2,000 feet. well, at that point, you kind of are saying that, we're looking at these specific properties. Because that's a very small area.
Because originally this started out, and again, I get back to where we began, and things always grow, right? So, we began with a mixed use out of the comprehensive plan. We found MUR and MUC. We said, okay, MUR will give you multiple housing types to do an MUR, and MUC, we're gonna let you have some commercial. But we limited the housing type to just single family. Because I think that the feel was, and maybe you're onto something. If you want something, what other conditions could you put into it that don't make it onerous to the place where you're gonna try to put it in? That you would have, so now you're gonna have multifamily on top of commercial and other stuff that's not gonna be just simple services servicing a single-family development.
Well,
Does it? Maybe are we missing something here because of the way this thing sort of has progressed? We modified the MUR to put in the minimum single family, the maximum towns and apartments.
correct.
Why wouldn't we do the same thing, same thing, is that what you're saying?
That's kind of what I was saying, is why wouldn't,
Same thing in MUC, and then remove the requirement for the distance close to the highway.
yeah, that's kind of what I was getting at, is, I don't know why we'd have MUR and allow all these different housing types, and then go to MUC and say, okay, now you can put in commercial, but you lose all these other housing options and you're just single family. To me, it's kind of backwards. We should, MUC should really just be MUR with the addition of the commercial on top. Dave, Troy?
Yes, so how do we come up with those percentages? So before we were using, 30, 10, and 10?
Yeah.
That's the way it's written.
And,
Are
and I,
those applicable in this case?
well, do we have a minimum of housing currently in the MUC? What does it list for the breakdown between residential and commercial, Dan, in the MUC?
We don't have anything.
I thought we still said you had to have a certain amount of residential within your MUC
Nope.
development. We didn't,
Commercial mixed use was just a use by right, and it didn't talk anything about any percentages. We came up with the percentages when we were talking about the MUR. Because it just started out like as a blank slate, you could do anything you want. And then you guys said, hey, we better limit this, what makes sense. We studied some developments, we looked at the numbers, we came back and made a recommendation. I think the only difference here is that what you would do is if you really want to promote some form of commercial within the, if you're gonna call it mixed-use commercial, you wanna ensure you have commercial, right?
sure.
So do you look at that 30, 10, 10, and then take them away and say, now you're gonna add another component to that, certain piece has to be non-residential?
Well, I mean, you already have that in there, right?
I just wrote it I left it that was the only standard.
But does that, if,
So you could do, in my world, you could do all apartments as long as you reserve 20% of the land area for, doesn't have a limitation.
oh, I see, now I was looking at the other side of it. So let's not look at the percentages from MUR right now. Let's look at what's currently in MUC with your red lines in there. Right now, what you're saying is a minimum of 20% of the land area shall be developed as a non-residential use, but it could be 100%.
Sure.
You don't have to have any residential.
That's correct.
So,
Yeah, that's a good point. I was just trying to state it in the obvious that somebody obviously was gonna do residential. You gotta do at least, you know,
But I mean, we're allowing them to do no residential in that area. But we're saying, but right now, the way it's written is, you can do minimum 20%, you have to do minimum 20% commercial, you can do 100% commercial. But if you, anything that's not commercial, it better be single-family homes.
right.
And that's the part that kind of flies in the face of what I think makes sense. You know, I think limiting the residential component to single-family doesn't make sense there.
Okay, I'm with you, I understand that.
Um,
So really what you're doing is, all you're doing is modifying, I think you're,
I don't think we need to put a minimum in for the residential. Maybe we just, or for the single family, but maybe we allow, we allow single family townhouses and multifamily, but we just put a cap on the townhouses and in the multifamily. I don't think we need a minimum of the single family. Because right now, we can still have 100% commercial development in the MUC. But if you want to put residential in, that's fine, but you're still going to be limited to no more than 10% of it being multifamily. So you can have 90% commercial and 10% multifamily.
yeah, but I wanna be careful here, because I think we don't have, we're not trying to make another South Point district here with the MUC. So I don't think we want it all to be commercial. I think we want to, if you want a mixed use,
I don't think we are either, but that's what we have written right now.
it's just me being a bad planner. I agree with you, but what I'm saying is, I think that this,
I wasn't saying that, so.
yeah, that's okay. It was just my initial thought, that's why you talk about things.
Okay, so,
I'm saying you just rewrite this paragraph and repeat it, but you say in the mixed-use commercial district should apply out a mixture of whatever you want it to be. You spell out, do you want to spell it out the same way and then spell out the percentage of commercial? It's got to have a minimum of commercial?
so what if we, just using your idea, mixed-use commercial shall be a mixture of at least two, shall include at least one residential component. Now you can't have anything 100% commercial,
Right?
but you allow them to be, and your options are single-family, townhomes, or multifamily, but you cap townhomes and multifamily to 10%. So they could do a 90% commercial and 10% apartments. But they could even do 90%, and you said they have to have at least 20% of it be commercial, right? So they could do,
That was just.
no, I mean, I don't disagree with the numbers,
I'd
so
be interested to see what Steve has to say when he gets a chance to talk.
I think I would too, but we could get to 80% single family and 20% commercial. You have 90% commercial, 10% multifamily. That's a big range, and I think that gives developers a lot to work with. But it forces that mixed use that you're talking about.
So you're saying at least one residential component,
Yeah,
and you're saying a cap the multifamily, like apartments at 10% of land area?
yeah, and the two-family / townhouses at 10%, just like it is in the MUR.
Yeah, see,
Or maybe we can even up that number and give them 20% on that one.
I think that's where, I think that's where, you achieve density by those types of units. And if they're gonna, it's hard to create pads to have the development. So, I don't know, I don't know whether that, it still seems like it might be a little bit low, you know what I mean?
So I guess what, I hear what you're saying. I don't think we need to figure out numbers tonight,
Okay?
right? I mean,
No.
we're just a recommending body.
It's this discussion, well, it should come from you guys with a recommendation.
And I think I mean,
I think the board's expecting it to be written. They're not expecting to write anymore.
we've moved it pretty far though, tonight, I think, with that talk about that MUC. If we put in that, if we say we're gonna have, at least one residential type, and that we're gonna put caps on it, but we're not sure what our percentages want, we don't, you and the three of us and even our residents and Jack here tonight, I mean, I don't think the entire township is expecting what do we got here, 10 of us in the room to be able to figure out exactly what the percentages should be tonight. But I think it's something where we can say, hey, 10% multi-use, I mean, maybe 20% townhouses. And if the Board of Supervisors go, yeah, we can run with that, great. If they go, you know what, we want you to spend another month on it and actually give us hard numbers, then we can do that.
Okay. Well,
I mean,
I mean,
I'm
you
the
can-
only one up here talking, so Troy, Dave, please chime in.
I think you're representing the planning commission well.
I just,
I agree.
I'm not gonna argue, I don't want, I think that there's different areas of the township that are gonna be different for this. That's my concern. And that's the reason why I think you should be more focused on the area that is close to the transportation we have. So I still think that we should include the provision within so far a distance to the connection to the highway. I think that's important. And I think then if you just say that it has to have at least one residential component and a minimum of, I'm just saying 20% non-residential, that kind of sets up a basic standard that doesn't limit too much.
Yeah, my concern is though, you're telling us that the Board of Supervisors are trying to encourage commercial, but as soon as we say you're allowed to have one residential use in there, and there's a minimum of 20% commercial, we have a potential for that entire MUC to be 80% residential now. And I don't know if was what the
Well, I think,
intent was.
I think if you read the MUC, it was designed to have services that were kind of light, right? It was supposed to be things that could fit along a state road. It wasn't supposed to be high intensity, and it was supposed to still have the ability to have some residential in it, because still some form of residential. So I just think that there's just, when you're that close to the interstate, you have a higher, you could absorb a higher intensity level on that property versus, property near South Fayette Way, as opposed to properties that are out on Calvin Road. That's my thought.
Yeah.
I mean, if you guys want to,
I think it's the percentages that are throwing us. It's just, I mean, just to sit here and, I mean, so much thought, and I mean, this is, like you said, this has been, I mean, then this comprehensive, I mean, this all comes out of the comprehensive plan, that the development of the comprehensive plan was before I was even on this, before Dave was on this planning commission. Either Dave or I. I mean, that development of that comprehensive plan, current comprehensive plan, has been a long time coming. So there's been a lot of years and a lot of thought and a lot of brain power put into that. And to be sitting here right now and be like, okay, we need to hammer out percentages, I think it's just hard to,
You did it on the other part. We gave you some examples.
I mean, you
let's-
pitch me a
let's hear
softball, I can hit it out of the park.
Nobody's saying that you have to come up with the answers tonight. I mean,
That's where I'm at. I just don't know.
The board has clearly said, there's no timeline on this, there's no forcing this to happen. They want it to be deliberated, and they want to take input from everybody. So that's been made very clear. They accomplished what they wanted to accomplish, what I recapped for you tonight. I mean, they felt like they got something done, at least initially, what they could do, low-hanging fruit, well, let's call it, on those changes. Now they're into, more of a thought process on what makes sense here. So I think they're looking for guidance from you guys. So if you want, if we can take the input of the people that are here tonight, and you want us to come back, want me to come back with some alternate language next month that you guys can kick around when the full planning commission is here, well, I'm glad to do it.
Yeah, I mean, that's kind of
Nobody's
where
under
I'm at
pressure
with it.
saying to me, bring this to me at the supervisors meeting in, in November and be ready to do it.
I do want to hear what the residents here have to say. And, no, stop putting words in my mouth, Dan.
No, I was talking to myself.
After that discussion.
Let's take it so long.
So, my name's Kelly Sturtevant, and I live at Cecil Elementary Drive. I live in the old Cecil Elementary building that was converted to apartments. And as I was preparing for this meeting, I realized that I have only lived in Cecil as an adult for 3 years. My family lived on Rising Road, and but after I went to college, basically I was gone. And I've lived locally in multiple places. I've lived McMurray, I lived on the north side, Uptown, Pittsburgh. I've lived Swickley, New Brighton, and as I thought about it, it sounds like I'm a nomad. But in addition to that, I've lived in Atlanta. I lived in Atlanta 2 times, Philadelphia, Northern Virginia, Charlottesville. And so I've been in a lot of different communities. And I'm sorry, I'm ruffling through my papers trying to find the right page here. One of the communities that I lived in was Reston, Virginia, which was the first planned community in the United States. It was first put together in 1964, and I lived there in the late 80s. And I was so excited to see mixed use, but I was not sure why mixed-use commercial and mixed-use residential were separated into two different types of zones. And I even went on Chat APT to see if I could find those 2 definitions and couldn't find it. But, the benefit of mixed use is that people now want to live and work and play in the same area. They don't want to have to travel to one place to do their shopping, and live 20 or 30 minutes away from home, from the grocery store. They want to be able to go to a local recreation center. They want to take their kids to the playground. And so when I looked at mixed-use commercial, and the property that our family owns is at the corner of Hallam and Rising Road, so it's been designated as mixed-use residential. And at first I didn't understand that because I thought mixed-use residential looked just like R2, but then I read more of the definitions and saw that the lot sizes are smaller and the homes are smaller, so that made sense. But when I looked at mixed-use commercial, I was confused as to why only single-family homes, and this is what you guys were just all talking about, why only single-family homes were mixed in with commercial, and especially the types of commercial that you have listed, bakeries and, more consumer services kinds of businesses. And, it's more people, younger families, young people, and seniors that would want to live in a mixed-use commercial zone because it's easier to get to all the amenities that they need. They can walk, our topography is not as easy as some other places like Reston, Virginia, but, you can get easily to some place without having to have, somebody drive you, kids could walk to whatever they wanted to do. And so, I looked at, I think, if I'm going to, I was trying to think of a good example. If I wanted to go to Ronnie DeFelice and say, Ronnie, we're putting together this mixed-use commercial zone. Would you put a little restaurant deli like you have now there? And he'd say, well, what else is going to be there? And I'd say, single-family homes. He was like, well, why would I want to do that? I would never put a deli up in the FLIR plan or the Monaco plan. You know, there's not enough population density. So I think to attract the right kind of businesses that you have listed that you want there, you're going to need to have more densely populated properties. And it's not single-family homes, but it's, you know, apartments, townhouses, and I don't know what all the definitions are. I didn't see anything, garden homes, but it doesn't seem to have anything that has more than one story. Is there anything?
Garden apartments have.
Garden apartments,
Okay,
up to 5
all right.
stories.
So if you feel like it, I encourage you to look at Reston, Virginia. Their vision is that people of all ages, ethnicities, and incomes can live together in the same community and live, work, and play in those communities together. And that was back in the 80s when I lived there, and in more recent years I went there, we traveled there for a funeral, and I was just so happy to see that they had pretty much fulfilled their vision. And it's taken a lot of planning. You know, one of the benefits they have is that their topography is nice and flat. So they have lakes, they got people, you know, paddle boarding on the lake, and people, you know, around shopping centers, the schools. Where I lived, I could walk to the school, I could walk to, you know, all the amenities, but I wasn't right next to commercial. I was in a condo building, and there were other condos and townhouses nearby. So I think we really need to rethink, and I'm not sure what the supervisors would like, but we really need to think if we're going to have this mixed-use commercial, it should be this kind of like commercial that you've put together, but I wouldn't have even put the single-family homes in there. I would have put in all the other types. So that's my first point. The other point I wanted to make is some of the language that you have in the zoning should be updated. There's things like video rental stores, convalescent homes, there's no such thing anymore. Rest homes is not up to date. You've talked about assisted living. Assisted living is very different from independent living. Hastings has independent living, not assisted living. Assisted living is defined by people who need regular nursing. There's nurses on staff. Somebody gives them their medications. They're not mobile. Maybe they can get, you know, somebody will help them get on a bus to go shopping or something, but they're not independent. Independent is really like an apartment building where these people can have cars. They can come and go as they please. It's very different. They take their own medications. You know,
Yeah, we understand. There's a separate definition for assisted. I mean, in our world.
But I don't see you don't have.
In our world, independent living is a garden apartment.
But it's not. Independent living is not
Well,
a garden apartment.
that's, in our world in Cecil Township, that's all we have. We don't have high rises. We don't have.
They're not high rises.
No.
Hastings,
Hastings is in South Bath.
I know,
Yeah.
I've been there. That building where the seniors are is independent living.
Right, and it's
right.
it's essentially an apartment building.
Right.
Yeah.
Right, but they do have some amenities. I know they have a PT a physical therapy office in there, and there are other amenities. There's a little bank, I think, in there, the little store.
Mm-hmm.
But, okay, so I think.
I think to both your points, you're talking about defining it from a zoning perspective, and he's saying, you're talking about difference between, you know, garden apartments and independent living apartments from a marketing perspective, where he's saying from a zoning perspective, there is no difference. If it's garden apartments, if they're marketing those garden apartments to seniors for the purposes of living there as independent living.
I wouldn't describe that, what they have at Hastings as garden apartments.
No, they're not. I mean, we have one apartment building in the town center overlay, over in the town center district. We have the apartments that were built along Town Center Way in South Point.
Yeah,
That's more of an apartment building,
yeah.
as opposed to garden apartments, which is out on Klinger Road. What do we call, with the one there, Klinger Park? The Reserve.
Oh, okay.
The
yeah,
Reserve is garden apartments.
Okay, no, that's fair.
Your point
fair
is, your
definition.
point is well taken.
Fair point.
I mean, in, again, I was trying to describe the evolution of how supervisors, sort of what their vision of this was and what it's become, and I think that's a valid point. I mean, should the MUC be written around like a Hastings to promote that? I don't know. Good question.
Should be ridden around to promote, I don't understand what you're
Well,
saying.
what I'm saying is we came at this from a different angle. We made mixed-use residential, which I don't think there's any question about what that is. Commercial side was just to say, hey, if we have some land along state roads that can handle some more traffic, let's allow some additional commercial components.
Mhm.
What you're talking about is building a whole city. And that's, or, you know, a big, huge planned development. Yeah, we don't have those tracts of land. I mean, you know, we're lucky to get 150 acres in one spot. So it's a little more different to get a Reston, Virginia concept going.
Well, but most of, you know, and this brings me to my last point. Our property is proposed to be mixed-use residential, but all that adjacent property is mixed-use commercial. And I'm not sure why our property is not mixed-use commercial. That would give you,
I'm sorry, your first name again was?
Kelly.
Kelly? I'll say it again. I know we put it out there with what it was. That's all flat and open now. You know, it's not, the board has not decided on any final version of that. So if you want to come back and request that your property be MUC as opposed to MUR, you're more than welcome to do that.
Yeah, I think we would like to.
But again, we got to get this part of it
Yeah,
done first.
I know it's not finished, but we are discussing it and are leaning more towards mixed-use commercial. We think it would be in our best interest.
Somebody over there might want to join it to his property. There you go.
Hey, Jason or Jack, do you have Kelly's last name for the minutes?
Yeah, I'll send it to you.
All right, thank you.
Jack will send it to you.
Perfect.
Steve?
Oh, I'm sorry. Let me put up for.
Thank you, everyone. My name is Steve Whittingham. I am the Vice President of Development at Bernskala Real Estate. Dan, I appreciate all your hard work on this. I appreciate the dialogue that we've heard here tonight. We have under agreement, like Dan mentioned, it crosses county lines. It's a total of 87 acres, but it's plus or minus 60 acres in Cecil Township. It is right off of Ricing Road. It's the old Michael Sullivan property. So really, when we heard about this rezoning, our first thought was, just with as tough as the economy is right now, with the market being stiffer in terms of commercial development and things of that nature, when we were allowed the opportunity to take a first pass at Dan's rendition of the MUC, we didn't have any preconceived notions of we want this use. Really, we're just trying to leave as much optionality and as many different options for development for that particular property as we can, because it is going to be a challenge. While it's a combined 87 acres, the topography is really tough. The visibility is, quite frankly, really tough. So just to orient you guys, it's the acreage that abuts the Southern Beltway. It actually sits immediately adjacent to the new Turnpike facility, the maintenance facility, which is like the nicest maintenance facility I've ever seen. I didn't come here with any percentages in mind or anything like that. I agree with you, Mr. Crut, that our rendition of this, or our thoughts were, if we are going to be forced to have a commercial component, we do want to have a more dense, or options for a more dense residential component that can actually use and serve that commercial, to attract that commercial user because of the complications that I said. Visibility is tough, topography is tough. Dan, I appreciate all the stuff that you did include. I know we went a little bit crazy, adding every use that was conceivable that we didn't think was malicious. But we're a developer that I think has a really good track record, one that has a good track record in Cecil Township, most notably in South Point, and this is land that we really want to develop. When we first started looking at it, full transparency, it was in the R1, and we attacked this as it was going to be a residential type of development. We heard loud and clear from the supervisors, Jack and Dan, and some of the supervisors have been gracious enough to hear us out in some private meetings. And we're just really looking to work with the township to develop the property, right? That's what we want to do. So, admittedly, I have pretty terrible eyesight, and I can't read all the changes that you did incorporate here, Dan. But if you wouldn't mind maybe emailing that to our group,
Yeah.
we'd love to take another pass at it. But I think the way you guys are talking, Dan, some of the changes you've already implemented, we're definitely moving in the right direction, and I really thank you guys. That's all I had.
Thank you. So, Dave and Troy, I mean, I don't know what the two of you are thinking on this. If somebody has something that, if one of you have something that you want to propose here for Dan to take back to the Board of Supervisors, please throw it out there. My thoughts right now are that if we are going to have some residential in it, I think the more dense residential makes more sense than
Sure.
than single family. But as you know, when it comes to setting limits on it, I'm not even sure where to begin on it, other than starting with where we are already in MUR. But I don't know if those same numbers make sense to Dan's point.
I like the idea of pushing the more dense residential, and however we do that.
I mean, I don't know that it's a horrible thing if the MUR, if the end result of if we make this change, and the end result is that the MUR ends up being pretty much all single families with a few townhomes in it, and then the MUC ends up being where, if there's going to be any apartments, they end up in the MUC.
Yeah.
I don't think that's a horrible outcome out of the whole thing.
Well, my only thoughts are then if it's your desire and you think the MUC should have more dense residential development, then don't put any limitations on it at all. Let the market drive it. You're gonna require a traffic study, you're gonna have to have sewers. So it's gonna have minimum, there's two ways to attack it. You can either try to guess what the market's gonna be, which is always difficult, or you can prescribe standards. We could think about more standards to apply that would kind of limit the properties that you do it on. That's the other way to approach it. And again, one of those standards was being within a certain distance to a major highway. You could expand that further. Do you think, that was Dan just saying 2,000 feet along Rising Road. but do you want that to be further along Rising Road? Do you want it to be, do you want to create Rising Road as more of a little corridor there that, you know?
Does it become a sliding scale based off of distance from?
Good,
I mean, is that,
but you're still limited by density at 8 per unit, which is high. I mean, you know, we never get that. We never get 8 units per acre. Even when you just try to do it in a PRD, because nobody ever puts apartments in.
right.
That's the only way you're gonna get that density.
So guys, do we have time for another draft next month?
Yeah,
Does
absolutely.
it have enough direction and then input tonight?
I can try to throw some options out there, you know, but I think, you know, the idea is, what I'm hearing from Steve is try to be as flexible as possible to give the developer enough options. But on the planning commission side and on the board of supervisors, they want to be careful that we don't do the wrong thing either. That's why they want to get this right. So
Yeah.
maybe we think about some additional standards that would, you know, would be helpful to eliminating it too. When we come back next month, I'll get you guys another edition of it.
Yeah,
Meantime, I'll get it to these guys to look at again.
yeah, I mean, it could be something as simple as, we could all leave here tonight, and I could be halfway home and go, why don't we discuss this idea? And bring it back next month. I don't want to necessarily say that this is what we want to do and send it on to the Board of Supervisors. You know, I think we should all give it more.
Because from a process standpoint,
thought.
this has changed so much that after it leaves here, Jack and I are gonna go to the Board of Supervisors and say, hey, the planning commission provided a recommendation on the ordinance. They're gonna have to set up another public hearing, there's gonna have to be another presentation on it, and we're gonna walk the supervisors through it, and they're gonna do what they wanna do to it too. So it's got a ways to go. It's not gonna be like, you know, we're done.
Yeah, you know, I had a note written on here from 2 months ago. And I don't remember if I mentioned it to you or not, but as we're talking about MUC now, and again, I haven't looked at the definition side by side, but it's maybe just spurs a larger conversation of village C3, village commercial district C3. Should that become MUC, depending on how we define MUC?
I mean, village commercial was written around Muse and Cecil, right?
Right, but it's,
And
the
that would-
village, those villages, you know, because they were historically villages with that mix in them, but they've kind of evolved.
Right,
themselves.
and the board would like
So.
to see updates to those villages too. They'd like to see, you know, there's sewers along Miller's Run. Why hasn't that little village grown a little differently? I don't know.
Yeah.
Is there anything you can do there? I honestly think that the village commercial is more attuned to those densely packed little areas. And it's kind of written around how they exist now, whereas you guys are trying to create a new district that,
But I feel like we're trying to get developers to essentially create what we used to have in places like Muse and stuff, and
like
so.
a Main Street and other types of housing.
So we have places that used to have it, that we'd like to get them back to that. And then we have other places where we want developers to come in and create that, and
Yeah, but, and again, thinking like a civil engineer, and I tend to do that from time to time. You know, the whole idea of the comprehensive plan was that we don't, you know, everybody goes, yeah, we got all this land, but we don't have the infrastructure to support it. We have 2-lane highways. We have some points where we get on the interstate, we're lucky to have those. And we're kind of limited where we can do this nice new development unless we get new highways to really carry people, but I don't know, maybe highways aren't important in the future.
not sure. If we get nice mixed-use developments where we never have to leave our community to get all the amenities we need, we need a highway.
But yeah,
As being facetious.
I know.
Okay.
One thing I just want to throw in there, most of Route 50. Miller's Run is C1 all the way down. It's a C1 corridor as opposed to C3. All right, so I just wanted to make that,
R3, yeah. The R3 is the village residential. That's what's in use.
yes.
That's it's the,
Well, you have the R3 and then you have the C3, yeah.
it's the green.
Yeah,
It's the part, like you can see it around the village.
see the C1, that's Miller's Run right through there.
Yep.
And then we get into R2, and then but traditionally, I mean, this has been that way for a long time, it's C1. Green,
The purple, I think, is the village.
That's your village
That's C3,
commercial. That's C3. Run it, yeah, so you have a C3 corridor with the little
Yeah.
patches of R3 around it. Muse, it's a lot more obvious.
there's your C3 right there.
Yeah.
Purple.
Was that Muse that you just
I'm sorry,
swung by there?
what were you looking at?
Yeah, that was Muse.
Yeah, it was Muse. And it's so much more. You had that C3 core with the
Right there.
R3 around it. Yeah.
That's Muse right there.
Yep.
Well, I can at least take away that the planning commission seems to be satisfied with MUR, right? So we keep focusing on the MUC, and I'll see if I can get I'll see if I can get some input from the board, anything else further, and get you guys another draft or something to look at, see what these guys have to say.
Yeah, I'd like to see some more back and forth on what they're thinking with the residential mix within that MUC.
Sounds good.
Just want to say thanks again to Dave. Without Dave, we wouldn't be here right now, so.
Thanks, Dave.
Sure, no problem.
Super Dave.
That's right.
All right, that was ordinances amendments. Do we have any correspondence or announcements?
I have nothing to add right now.
I'd be more than happy to put out a slightly self-serving announcement. The Cecil Cub Scouts have their community discount cards available.
That's right.
They are out. You can purchase them. I have them with me for anybody who's here. $15, and they're good at a number of local businesses. So we're supporting local business, saving local residents money, and getting money to the Cub Scouts to be able to continue running that, what I think is a very vital program for our community.
Excellent.
Can you save me one?
Absolutely, Dave.
All right, cool, thanks.
That's all I got. Any discussion? Okay. Motion to adjourn?
I'll make that motion.
Second it.
8:40 PM. Did we really go almost 2 hours?
All right, guys, have a good night.
Thanks again,
Thanks
Dave.
again, Dave.
Thanks,
See ya.
Dave.
Thank you. Bye-bye.
Kelly, where does, you said your property's at Rising in Hallam? That's past the greenhouse, right?
Yeah, it's up on the right. Yeah, thank you. Here, I got it for you.
Is that before, see, Steve, I'll send you that off.
I was
Because I
looking at
can't
it.
find it, I can't